Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast series, Release Notes, The Expert Perspective. Hi, I'm your host, Sujeet Pathak. I'm a senior product manager at Amoeboids. Amoeboids is an Atlassian Platinum Marketplace partner. In this podcast series, we dive into the world of release notes and speak with experts behind them. Today, we have with us Mr. Mandar Joshi. He's a technical writer at Google and he has a long career in the world of technical writing. He has worked with many leading organizations over the last 10 to 15 years. Hi, Mandar. First of all, thank you very much for joining us today and a very warm welcome to you on the show.
Thank you, Sujit. It's a pleasure joining you to discuss the release notes. It's something not many people talk about, so it's exciting.
Great. Thanks. So before we begin with our topic, that is the release notes, I want to start with asking you how exactly did you got into the world of technical writing? What prompted you to enter in this particular field?
All right. So, I started my career as a technical writer. I joined my first organization. It was a startup. So,
Mhm.
uh, prior to joining the startup, I had some experience writing some articles for the web. So
Okay.
I had a background of writing. So when this opportunity came to me, I thought of exploring it. I didn't knew much about technical writing at that time. So when I went to the interview, I actually asked the person, the manager who was taking the interview, asked him what is technical writing, and he explained it to me. And then I thought, why not try this out? And
Okay.
my manager was kind enough to tell me that if you don't like it, maybe we can move you to something else where you might like it. So I started doing technical writing, and I just loved it. I mean, uh, to go behind the camera and see how things happen, how things are created. It's a very exciting thing, and I always had a uh, I always love to learn new things. So technical writing has been a pretty good journey for me till now. I have worked with different companies, worked on different domains, different documents, and it's been a fun ride.
Great. Great to know that. And I believe you have started into this around 2005, 6, right? So
Yeah.
it's been around
So
more than 15 years now.
yeah, almost 18 years now
18
in
years.
the industry. Yeah, yeah, and I've seen the change. In the early days, we had this printed manuals, big fat books,
Yes.
which we used to give to the customer, and it was very at that time nobody thought documentation was not a attention seeker, you can say. It's still not that important to the company, but you
Mhm.
cannot release a product without documentation. So yeah,
Right.
so still we are still struggling, we are still pushing boundaries, we are still chasing SMEs to give us information. So things haven't changed much, but yes,
Mhm.
how we create documentation and deliver documentation has definitely changed.
So can you specify the specifics, like what are the notable changes that you have observed over this period of 18 years that in the world of technical communication?
Yes, definitely. So when I started, as I said, we used to print the documents, right?
Yes.
And from printing documents, we went to the PDFs. From PDFs, we went to HTML. Uh, Things have changed a lot. The focus right now is on customer experience.
Right.
Just like we have we give customer experience through the user interface,
Mhm.
we also give customer experience through documentation. You have to take care of the customer, because you know you have to understand when does a customer need help, right? So
Okay.
we have to see, and by the time the customer comes to the documentation, the customer is already frustrated. So we have to provide that information in, quickly and in a very simple language which the customer can understand. And the new age documentation, I can say, it's not only about creating documentation, but you have to collaborate with the user experience team and also provide content for the UI. I'll give you an example. I was working with a company back in 2015 or something like that. So we decided to make the user guide lightweight. So we decided that you don't want to add unnecessary information or simple information in the user guide itself. We thought of moving that information to the UI. For example, during the login screen, or creating a user. If a person is creating a user, if there are some rules for creating the user, you provide those rules there and there on the UI itself, so that the customer or the person who's creating that user doesn't have to go back to the documentation to see what are the rules and then come back to the UI to create the user. So you have to collaborate with a lot of folks now, especially with the UX team, to provide experience.
Okay, so that's a nice insight. Like, you don't have to state obvious things into your documentation. So users should be guided by the system itself while they are using your product. So moving on to topic of the discussion, that is the release notes. So release notes is one of the documents that is being maintained by any software products, especially whenever there is a new release. You specify what are the things that are being shipped into the release. So there is a documentation, help documentation on one side, and on another side there is a release notes document, which is a kind of a release logs in some cases, where you can see the history of releases, how often it has happened, and what are the major changes that has gone into each of those releases. So when you draft a release notes, so again, to just elaborate for our viewers, release notes can be external facing for your customers, for your users. Some cases it can also be internal facing for your internal stakeholders, like your QA teams, your developer teams, or your leadership teams sometimes. So as a technical writer, or even if I don't say that term specifically like a technical writer, because in different organizations, different people might be in charge of delivering the release notes. So when you are entrusted with these responsibilities, in general, how do you determine like what information should be included into the release documents? How that process happens?
Okay, so first of all, release notes is a very, very important document. Customers check release notes. It's the first document that customers check before buying any product. So to see what has changed, what are the known issues, what are the fixed issues. So release notes is very important. Coming back to your question, how do you determine? So a basic structure of any release notes is about what are the changes, uh, and then what are the known issues, and then what are the fixed issues. This is a basic structure of any release notes. Now these now who determines what should go into a release notes? Most of the times that decision is taken by the product management. So if it is an external document which is given to the customers, the product management has to decide which issues are external facing or customer facing, and then they decide, okay, this is a list, and this list is given to the writer or the person who is creating the release notes. So most of the decisions are taken by the product management.
Okay. So now, product team, that's what you're saying, that is the one who decides what, like suppose in your release, there are 10, 20 or 50 issues in your Jira or any other project management tool that you're using. Out of those 50 issues, what are the things that are external facing that should be communicated to the external users? That is first decided, and then based on that, uh, release notes text around that particular issue is maintained against that issue, and which is then incorporated into the final version of the document. Now again, this process should go in hand with your development process, right? It's not like today you have a release and now you have started drafting the release notes. There must be some preparation that must be going on at the back end in parallel to your development process or your QA process, which is culminates into the release. So how does that work? Like, who are specific actors who are in charge of driving this whole process of release notes document generation?
Okay, let me explain you the a very generic process of release notes. So release notes is the last document which is created in the set of documents. So it is created at the very, when the release is very close, because you don't know which issues need to go into the document. So to determine that, the release notes is always created at the last. You create a template. You have to create a template, keep it ready, and when you get the information, you start filling out that release notes template. What usually happens is, a product manager, or maybe, instead of a product manager, let me say product management. So the product management decides, okay, we have, let's say, 100 issues with us. Now, out of 100, how many are customer facing? Because there are times when you don't have to expose the some of the issues to the customer, right?
Correct.
So those issues are slowly added to a filter. Some kind of comment or some kind of flag is added to those issues, saying that, okay, this is a release note candidate.
Okay.
And once that list is ready, you start drafting the release notes. At times, uh, it happens that, if you start drafting the release note, it happens that, you may have to remove some of the issues from the release notes, or maybe move from known issues to fixed issues. Something like that happens. But it is a very, you can say, uh, active document, and uh, it is frozen only at the last moment, just before the release. So that's the overall process, or a generic process of release notes.
Right. So, Mandar, you mentioned earlier, like it has the release notes document or even help documentation for that matter should be written in a such a way that any user can understand it easily. So even if your product is highly technical, it's not, you cannot predict, like your users might not understand those technical concepts easily. So when you write release notes, even if its first draft is being prepared by a product management team, not everyone is well versed with the writing techniques that you guys are trained into, right? So what are your inputs when, suppose I'm a product manager at my companies, when I write release notes for any first draft of release notes for any technical task or technical feature of my product, what are the things that I should keep in my mind when I write this thing?
Okay. So typically, when you write release notes, a typical format is like, when you're drafting a issue, you ask questions: what was the problem, and what was the impact of that problem, and then how it got resolved, or what is the workaround for that issue. This is how you have to draft it. Let's say that, for example, let's say the customer is not able to create a user, right? So so you have to say, in xyz version of this product, the customer was not able to create a user due to the some background or something xyz. And to resolve this issue has been fixed, and now the customer can you know uh, create the user, something like that. You have to be very specific, you have to simplify, you have to tell the problem, the impact, and the solution to the customer. So it helps the customer to understand what is happening.
Okay, got it. So you basically divide it into a specific structure, like what was the problem, what is the root cause, and then what is the solution that you are providing with this help.
Correct, correct. And I'll just add to it. So how do I identify all these things, right?
Mm.
So you have to open that issue, you have to read through the description, you have to read through the comments, what people have been saying, and then create a draft out of it. So you have, sometime it happens that there are 10-15 comments for that issue. So you have
Yeah.
to read through all those comments to understand what is going on, how
Mm.
they are fixing the issue, or uh, why this has happened. And you, once you create a draft, you check with the stakeholders to understand if you have written correctly or not, if this
Yes.
this is what was happening or not.
Right. So that there is a lot of to and fro that goes into
Yeah.
it, like before you actually finalize that draft, right? Okay. So we just discuss about how the typical process that goes into how the discussions go into. So as a technical writer, you are not directly contributing to the development process as such, but you have to still go through all those tickets, issues, and read through their descriptions, their comments, and then finalize what is the thing that is happening in this particular issue, and then you have to again get it verified from the SMEs or product
Yes.
team or the
Yes.
people who are in charge of
Correct.
it.
So I'll just explain you the review process of a technique of a release notes.
Mhm.
So once you create a draft of release notes, you have to address all the stakeholders. The stakeholders can be the product management, developers, QAs, and the
Mhm.
SMEs. So you have to send the draft to all these people uh, and ask them to review the technicality of this release notes. So once you get the comments, you implement those comments and send again the next draft for a review, for final review,
Mhm.
and then the release notes is actually frozen or approved, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. Got it. So now, in every release, you do this exercise in parallel to your development process, right? So when you publish release notes, your customers, your users are expected to refer to them. Even I have seen in our case, even your potential customers, they tend to look into your release notes even if they don't understand what are the content because they have not used your product extensively, but it gives them a confidence, like the based on the frequency of your release, they get a confidence that this is a product which is being actively worked upon, and you can expect new features in the future depending on the way they are being developed and the frequency of release that they have. So how do you measure this you know whether your efforts in building these release nodes are bearing any fruits or it is going into vain? Means how do you measure whether your
Mhm.
users are actually
Yeah,
using it?
yeah,
One, and second, how frequently they are using, how many people are accessing those documents? How do you measure this thing?
right. So the best process would be to collaborate with the support team.
Mhm.
The support team is the first team to communicate with the customers, so they know
Right.
the customer pain points, right? So uh, after the release has been done, you check with the support team how's the response. If they say that people are still asking about the issues which have been documented, it
Mm.
means that your release note hasn't reached them properly.
Okay.
If they say that the calls have been reduced and the number of questions or queries regarding the issues which have been documented are becoming less and less,
Mm.
then yeah, that's a success for you. Yeah.
Okay. Is one thing that you can definitely get into touch with and get a sense of what is actually happening. What are the changes? What was the before situation and after situation once you publish
Yes,
these notes?
correct, correct. I just want to add something over here for the features which are documented in that release notes. It's
Mm.
the what's new, what are the new features.
Right.
So even the features, when you are describing those features in the release note, you have to tell the customer how it will benefit them,
Right.
right? How it will make their work much more easier. If they
Mm.
use this feature, this is how it is going to benefit them or benefit their business as such. So you have to describe those features in such a manner. It's easily understood, and it looks attractive also.
So it should generate excitement to try that out immediately, right?
Correct. Yes,
So
yes,
that's
correct,
one thing.
correct.
Like it's kind of a, at micro level, you are actually marketing that feature to your users.
Yes, actually, you can say it's a marketing document also. Yes, definitely.
So yes. Uh, so now you are we have covered few areas about the process in general that happens. Again, it changes from organization to organization. You cannot have the
Yeah,
same process being followed in every organization. In some cases, I have seen there is no product team as such. So there are
yeah,
engineering managers who also do the release notes and other documentation
yes.
part of the. In some cases, there are QA teams that are handling this some part of these processes. But
Correct.
more or less, this is the things that go into the background of generation and distribution of a release note document. Now there are pretty much scope of automation in every part of this process, right? So do you use or have you used any specific tools which helps you to streamline the whole process?
Well, I haven't used any tools as such, but I did do an experiment in one of the companies I work with. So
Okay.
I'll give you a background what happened and how I provided the solution for it.
Mhm.
So in that company where I was working, the process was like there was a product manager who would provide me the list of issues that goes into the release notes. Now, for a particular release, the product manager was not available. The manager was on leave for some
Mhm.
personal work or something like that happened, and the release notes got stuck because nobody knew what should be going into the release notes. Now, it was the first time in my career where a product release was pushed ahead because the release notes was not ready. Now, this prompted me to think, one the release notes is dependent on one person, and it might happen again that the person is not available. So, how do we make it available to the entire team, and anybody can
Mhm.
take the lead and provide the solution to it. So what I did was, at that time I was using Jira at that time in that company. So I created some very release note specific fields in Jira. So for example, there was a checkbox add to release notes. There
Mhm.
was a content approve yes or no box. Then
Mhm.
there was release notes version drop down list and a release note content
Right.
field. Okay. Now, as a so this all these issues were definitely accessible by the product management.
Mhm.
Now, somebody from the product management would select the flag that okay, this issue is good for release notes. Add it to release note. You select the version of the release note where it should be going, and
Mhm.
then as a writer, I would add the content, which was very specific to the
Issue.
issue,
Right.
right? And that content was then reviewed by all the stakeholders because it
Mhm.
was since that issue was accessible to everybody.
Right.
Anybody can comment on it and correct it. So once that content was approved,
Mhm.
then I would create a filter of known issues and fixed issues,
Mhm.
and then those filters can be exported to the Excel uh, spreadsheet, and that's how I automated the release note. So
Yes.
that was the first time I automated something like that. So it really helped because all that content, release note content, was already available in the release in the Jira itself. So even
Mhm.
the QA, so uh, post the release, the QA would check the release notes for known issues and
Mhm.
then work on those individual issues to see, okay, to fix those issues.
Mhm.
But when you already have a filter set for known issues, it was the job was much more easier for the
Much more
QA
easy.
also because all the content was already there. So
Correct.
they would quickly work on it. So it helped them a lot.
Great, great. That's a really creative way of automating things. So
Yeah.
to just build upon this response that you have given. Uh, we happen to have our own product at Amoeboids. We have developed a Jira add-on called automated release notes for Jira. So we basically help users to automate the very process that you just explained. So you had created 3 to 4 custom fields when there are a couple of flags and then there is a content for release notes maintained in those custom fields. So what our application basically helps users is, you can then pull data from those, custom fields automatically into your predefined template of your release notes. Okay. And now you can maintain that template in different formats. So if you are to, send your release notes over an email, you can maintain an email template or PDF template, or if you maintain a central documentation space within your Confluence, which is connected to your Jira. So you can create a Confluence template from our application, or you can also maintain a separate release page for your product.
Okay.
And then this is about generation of release notes. And then there is a further distribution of those release notes. So, there are some cases where you want to send out an email. In some cases, like I mentioned, you want to publish a new page on in your Confluence documentation space, or if there is a widget which you can incorporate within your product itself, where you can display your release notes there within your product itself, so the user don't have to navigate to any other external page as such. So all this process of generation and distribution of your release notes can be automated with the help of this Jira add-on that we have developed called automated release notes for Jira. But again, the basis is same. What you explained that you experimented few years back with the help of couple of custom fields in Jira.
Yeah,
So
that's very interesting. I mean, I did this in something around maybe 2014 or 15 at that time.
I think probably it was around the same time we started developing this application.
Okay, very interesting. Nice, nice.
Great. So now we discussed to certain extents about the technicalities of generation and distribution of resources, collaborating with different stakeholders in general. But the gist of it is that the content of that release notes, right? And as a technical writer, you are the one who is going to write. Even if you don't write the first draft, even if there are SMEs or your product team is writing the first draft of the release notes, you are the people who are going to polish it, like to
Yeah,
make it presentable to your users, understandable easily. At the same time, like we discussed earlier, like it can also be basis for marketing your features to your potential users or your new users. So while doing this, you have to do it creatively. So that's where the technical writer within you comes to the fore, who are going to contribute to. But now in last few months or few years, we have seen there are tools like, for example, ChatGPT, which is a buzzword these days. These are generational AI tools which are, generating contents out of their own. So how do
yes.
you see towards these tools? Not just for release notes, but technical writing profession in general. How do you think these tools are going to help you, or do you see them as a threat to your profession altogether?
Well, everything is evolving. The technology is evolving, and you have to evolve with time, right? Even in technical writing, things are evolving. There are new tools here. There is new way of writing. So, as a writer, I think you have to keep learning, and you have to be open to the technology. Now, speaking of Chat GPT and tools like Bard and all,
Mm.
well, they are there to help you. I'll say they are not going to take your jobs.
Okay.
At least for now, they are not going to take your jobs. So you have to use these tools to make your content more useful or more customer centric, I can say.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, at least I'll say at least now we are safe. Everybody is safe. And I'm not speaking only about technical writers. I'm
Okay.
speaking on behalf of all the people, the developers, the QAs, everybody.
Mm.
Uh, you know, at least now we are safe, but God knows what is going to be developed. So let's see.
Okay. All right. Mandar, I think I'm pretty much done with my questions. One last question to you, like I'm mentioned earlier, we are with this exercise of this podcast series, we are trying to reach out to the budding, technical writers who are just entering into this profession. So, any key takeaways or tips from your side that you would like to give to them?
Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure. So technical writing is a very exciting field, and with new tools, new ways of writing, new things coming in it. This is the most exciting time to be a technical writer. So
Okay.
keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, keep learning, and focus on customer experience. That's the core of any business. Customer experience. You have to remember that word.
Okay, great. That's a great insight. And of course, overall, a wonderful discussion, Mandar. It was great talking to you. And I'm sure our audience must have got a lot of insights from all the discussion that we had. So, thank you again for joining us today and sharing those great insights with us.
Absolutely pleasure joining you, Sujit. It was a pleasure discussing release notes with you, and I wish you all the best, you and Amoeboids, for for more of these sessions. And it's not only about budding technical writers. I think the experienced technical writers and other people in IT will definitely learn from your podcasts. So yeah, looking forward to much more, many more podcasts from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mandar, for wonderful words. And to all the audience who are watching this session, thank you again for joining us today. And do follow us on our YouTube channel and also on our LinkedIn page to get the updates about our future episodes of this series. See you in the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.